glad to be back home. Within about 2,200 miles driving, and left about 1 yesterday, Colorado time, and got here, I guess, around noon today. So, anyway, God is good. It's fun. It was nice to the last stretch when we went over Monarch Pass. I took a picture of my phone on the dash, and it was 34 degrees on Monarch Pass. So that was pretty nice. I didn't bring it home. But me and Jordan went out and threw a couple more snowballs before we came down from there. But you go that far and don't have any problems. That's a blessing. God is good. All you say is thank you. Thank you, Lord. This sermon was, it's funny how, I don't know, you kind of wonder what God's doing all the time, I guess. I think Uncle David said it before, and other pastors said it, if a sermon's good enough to preach one time, it's good enough to preach again. I try not to ever do that, because I'm not against it, but I try to always draw new inspiration. And God usually, like 99% of the time, it happens. And on this one, I had preached it back in 2007 before I was associate here, and basically it's a great sermon, and it's one that kind of involves testifying to people and witnessing, which we're all supposed to do. But I had revised it and made it more like today. Some of the comments I'm making is so weird reading back on it. I would say something was 20 years ago, and now it's been 30. But I tried to, I had it printed and in my Bible to my knowledge, knowing that right when I got back here I was going to be preaching. I had it all prepped, and it's not in my Bible. And so, I usually back it up multiple times and send myself an email with the attachment so I can pull it up from anywhere, put it on a USB drive, and I tried all that for naught. So I had the original with me, and obviously God's like, no, I want you to preach the original again. So here we are. But as Liz said before, it's weird how you can be on the top of the mountain literally. We've got some good news, and then the carpet tries to get ripped out from under you. Knowing that somebody took $1,800 from you that you didn't have, that's a mess. So with God's help, tomorrow we're going to try to get it all cleared up. Hopefully we can. But in the meantime, the title is "Who's Sitting by Your Well?" I'm going to discuss. It's going to be a deep subject. Too late for jokes. But yeah, some of y'all are getting it. Maybe tomorrow some of you will. Well, let's define well first. Of course, it's a deep hole in the ground to arrive at a substance. And there could be many different things found in the well, usually water, oil, or gas. In this case, water, if we look at in John 4, you can go ahead and turn there. But my definition for a well in this sermon is an exciting place, a place where you can get encouragement, a place where you can find joy and refreshment. And as we look at the spiritual realm of the well that went on, the full experience of Jesus and the Samaritan woman, we're going to read about that shortly. And I believe that definition holds true. And if you look in your life, a well can be a place in your life where you're at daily. So, a lot of people talk about, especially with at different office places, depending on how yours was or is, water cooler talks, guys get there Monday morning and talk about the Sunday game and all that. But it can be any place in your life where you're at. So you can be at a store, you could be at your job, you could be at the park, you could be on a trip to Colorado, you could be wherever, and that is where your well is right then. And so that's what I'm going to look at, and we're going to look at who's maybe sitting by your well and what you should do with that. As I was thinking about this too, I was thinking about the Great Commission, and we're supposed to go and make disciples, and that's all about witnessing and loving and testifying to people. And hopefully they'll see something and want it. And the something they're seeing hopefully is Christ just permeating out of you. And that's a command from Christ, and a great commission it is. So let's turn in John 4. We're going to stop at verse 7, and I'm going to do some explaining, but let's read there in John 4, and we'll read 1 through 7. We'll read the rest in a moment. The Pharisees heard that Jesus was gaining and baptizing more disciples than John, although in fact it was not Jesus who baptized, but his disciples. When the Lord learned of this, he left Judea and went back once more to Galilee. Now he had to go through Samaria. I got that underlined in my Bible. Underline it in yours if you want. So he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about the 6th hour. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" Let's pause there for a moment. Have you ever been in a place in your life, maybe you've ran into opposition, maybe it's a dry place. Ever been there? Place where you just cry out to God. You've done it multiple times, and you're just at your wits' end. You're just like, God, I'm struggling. I need your help. I need you to. It doesn't feel like you're telling me anything. I need you to tell me something. I need encouragement. I just need something. Help me. Maybe right after that, you get an encouraging phone call from a friend, and they're just saying, "Hey, man, I'm just trying to check up on you. I just want to see how things are going." Probably it's been maybe 10 days ago. Dave Dooley texted me, praying for you and your family, brother. That's cool stuff. Maybe that's how God does that. Has anybody that ever happened to anybody? Yeah. Maybe a friend stops by, just wants to sit and have a cup of coffee and talk, and maybe a coworker just tells you, "Hey, man, I'm praying for you. I just feel like maybe you're going through something. I'm praying for you." Does she? All right. She's sitting by your well a little bit, man. Maybe a customer from your work says something encouraging to you. Maybe just there's all sorts of well experiences that happen, I believe, in our life. At my work, I know encouragement goes a long ways, especially if you make a comment to somebody that's been trying to lose weight and you actually see that they are. And so you make that comment to them. Maybe they've been trying for like 6 months hard and you're seeing it. And I try to go out of my way to tell those people that, because you see them fighting and probably depriving themselves from all sorts of stuff that we think tastes great, and it does. But so you see them going through that. You see them getting there early in the morning. You know, we open at 5 in the morning. You see them there at 5 every morning. You start seeing things change, and it's encouraging to them when they get encouragement, especially from myself as a trainer. I see that with a trained eye. Sometimes it may happen in the form of a Facebook message, a text message, an email, something like that, to where somebody's like, "Man, I know you're going through something, and I love you. I'm praying for you. Can I help?" And that helps. And I think that there's plenty of times when we're at these situations in our life, and God will send somebody or something. I want to read on the rest of the story here, and then we'll touch back on it. So Jesus is there, and he's sitting there at the well, and he's tired. Of course, that proves that he's human, right? So then the woman comes there, and so it's interesting how he starts this, and we always wonder how, to witness, how to maybe get the most of the well experience when you're with someone there. And he just asked her a question. And a lot of times, there's a thing with, I have not read it all, but I know a little bit about it. And I think it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People with Dale Carnegie. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing about that is all about you asking them about them. And everybody would be your friend, pretty much, if all you did was ask about them and let them just tell and brag about everything they've done and are doing. Everybody likes to do that. And probably if it's an older person, they'll pull out the pictures of all their grandkids and start bragging on them. So that Jesus basically just said, "Can you help me?" Knowing that he could help her. And we're going to read the rest of the story in verse 8. It says, "His disciples are going to town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, 'You are a Jew and I'm Samaritan. Samaritan woman, how can you ask me for a drink? For Jews do not associate with Samaritans.' Jesus answered her, if you knew the gift of God, who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. Sir, the woman said, you have nothing to draw with, the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his flocks and his herds? Jesus answered, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give him will become in him a spring of water, welling up to eternal life. The woman said to him, Sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water. He told her, go call your husband and come back. I have no husband, she replied. Jesus said to her, you are right when you say you have no husband. Fact is, you have had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true. Sir, the woman said, I can see that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but the Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem. Jesus declared, believe me, woman, a time is coming when you will worship the Father, neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming and has now come when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth. The woman said, I know that Messiah, called Christ, is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us. Then Jesus declared, I who speak to you am he. Let's read these last couple of scriptures here. Just then his disciples returned and were surprised to find him talking with a woman, but no one asked, what do you want? Or why are you talking to her? Then leaving her water jar, the woman went back to the town and said to the people, come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Christ? Thank you, Lord, for this story that we draw encouragement from at this time. And please speak. Amen. The woman basically was there. It's interesting why, the time she was there, probably one of the hottest parts of the day. Probably, maybe, intentionally to be by herself, possibly, because of the scorn and the shame that maybe her multiple marriages / divorces that had caused her, or multiple, whatever it was, she was involved in. And of course, God knew that, and he's the only one that can truly judge, right? Because he knows all the facts. And he is the judge, the high priest. But so she came there, obviously, she came there dealing with stuff. And pretty much everybody that we deal with, whether we're at their well or they're at ours, or vice versa, or both, everybody's dealing with something, right? I mean, we went up through prayer requests, and we had all kinds of stuff that was happening. Maybe not to us, maybe to other people, but we all have stuff. But she was here, and I like where it said Jesus had to go through. So obviously he was all about breaking down these man-made barriers with the Jews and the Samaritans in that whole situation. Usually Jews would go around Samaria, not have to go through it. And so we know that Christ broke that down. And but her being alone is a big deal. And you know, all these different men that so-called loved her, they were not there at the time. She was all by herself. She maybe was in a place where she needed advice, but didn't know where to turn. We've all been there. I mean, probably some of the people that she would consult with would not be other men, more than likely. There might be some women that were probably pointing fingers, and that might have been why she was at the well at that time anyway. But the coolest thing about the story, like everyone, Jesus made time and took time to stop and spend time with her at the well, at her well, and love her. And he tried to offer her something that would lighten up her burden. Now, she didn't understand it at first. She thought it was physical, right? And she just thought of the idea of, man, this would be a big burden lifted off. I don't have to come get water every day. But he offered the living water, eternal water that never runs dry. The woman, of course, was caught off guard and did not recognize that it was Jesus. And that was pretty astonishing anyway. But she did know that he knew things, and I think that was the way that he communicated with her without explicitly just telling her, hey, look, I'm the Messiah. That kind of looks braggadocious, of which Jesus was not. But he told her things to where, you know, it's kind of like if you were on the phone with somebody and you wanted to know for sure it was them, you would ask them, like, okay, what was my, you know, what is our secret, or, you know, you might have some little something. What is our favorite song, maybe? And nobody would know that. And at that point, you would go, okay, this has got to be them. And so that's kind of the way Jesus communicated with her. What the lady didn't know was that that day Jesus was going to be sitting there by her well and offering to lighten her burden, no matter how heavy it was. And that's what Jesus does to all of us, right? No matter how heavy it is, he offers the ability to make it zero, light, okay? And that's what he offered to her. In Matthew 11:30 it states, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And that's what he was offering to her. How many times have we not took time to spend at people's wells? Or maybe thought, no, I'm busy, I'm in a hurry, they're not going to respond anyway, they never have. You know, thank God that he doesn't ever think anyone is a lost cause. And he never is too busy to not stop, and sit for a while at your well and offer eternal life, encouragement, help, or a lot lighter burden than we're carrying. There's also a side note here that it's looked to be, as far as theologically as we dig and look at the scriptures, that Jesus spending time here, it was thought that laid the groundwork for a very accepting, warm welcome in Acts 8:4-8, when Philip ministered to the people in Samaria. So it's as if you can kind of see that all the puzzle pieces kind of came together, and Jesus broke ground here. More than just breaking into that woman's life, it probably laid the groundwork for the Jewish community to be more accepted in the future to the Samaritan people. And it's hard to not think that she didn't go and tell everybody she could. And once she's changed, imagine the scope, because we heard about the stuff she was dealing with, and everyone knew about that. But maybe there was people that thought, well, if this Messiah can change her, maybe we can listen to other Jews about their God. And that was interesting to know that Jesus' time spent there was bigger than just the time spent there. And we don't know in our life what that can be. Maybe there's somebody that somebody thinks is a lost cause, but we spend time in love and they come to Christ, and it changes the people that were watching that family that thought there's just no way they can get better. And it might change the family that's watching. Everybody's watching somebody, and hopefully we're watching Christ the most, of which he never fails us. So real quick, I wanted to just touch on a few things as far as just personal stories that to just kind of make this real to you. There was a time when I was at a pivotal time in my life. I was a lot younger, and I was having to make, you know, a lot of decisions that you have to make when you're younger, and as far as college and marriage and buying a house, all these things. It was just a lot. And so I was at work one day, and there was this guy that was there, and I needed to make a decision like that day, really. And so for some reason, he was a minister as well, and he was there, and I kind of opened up to him. I don't know why, and I can't even remember how the story started. And would you know that when he kind of opened up, he shared for about 20 minutes his story of his life, and he's probably about 20 years older than me. And so the story he told was almost the exact situation that I was thinking about making the choice or not. And it basically just was like, wow, it made the choice for me. And that's what I wanted. I wanted God to make the choice for me. And if he can't make the choice for you, he can show you someone that has made that choice and is 20 years further down the road, and it worked out great. And so as I listened to him, I was like, wow. And this guy spent moments at my well to encourage and help me and show me that the decision that I was thinking about making was the right decision. It reminded me of Proverbs 27:17. It says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. So your well experience can be encouraging another Christian. It doesn't have to always be a lost person. It can be, Christians, the devil's pull is so strong because he knows there's a chance that he can invite you back over to his team. And as you look in the vine and the branches, it says, if you remain in me, you remain in me. If you remain in me, I think it says it 5 times. I got to underline my Bible. And what's the detriment to not remaining? Well, it tells you in that scripture, doesn't it? Cut off and thrown into the fire. I believe the pull of the devil is so strong because he wants you to look at where you came from and go, man, this mountain's tough, I'll go back. And that's what he's always looking to get us to do. But as we encourage others at each other's well, I think it's very important that we do that. One other occasion, this is a tough one to tell, but it's a good one. I was walking back from work, and I basically, my prayer was, God, I know your yoke is easy and your burden is light, and I accept that right now. And I'll leave this with you, whatever was on my mind that day. And about 2 minutes later, a horn honked from a car and waved at me. And I believe she said, I love you, as she passed. And it was Bobby Moss, most of you know her. And she was at a doctor's appointment, and actually she was with Judy Jones, and she was like, I think that's Currie. And so she turned, and imagine the split-second timing of all that. And so I thank God for sending people to my way when I need it. And we should look at different things in our life when we're approached or we're around someone different, hard, maybe they're a tough case, as a chance to maybe break that shell down, a chance for God to break it down through us, and not think of it as, man, I'm going to have to deal with this person. And it's very easy to think like that, but if you think of it deeper and bigger, it helps better to be able to manage the people that are a lot harder to deal with. One time, and this is a story about sometimes you don't even know that you're affecting someone at their well, but you are. And that I found that out one day. I was going to college at LSUS, and there's a Circle K near there that probably every college student goes to all the time because it's just right there. And so I made a point. I was going there, getting gas, getting coffee, whatever. And I didn't notice it at all. I have to confess I didn't. But I made it a point to tell everybody, God bless you, when I interacted with them at a business. I would look them in the eye and say it. And so I walked back out to get gas. I'd already paid and walked out. And short little black lady walked out. And she was coming out to the pump. And she worked there. And I was thinking, oh, what's going on? Did I pick the wrong pump or what happened? And she walked out. She said to me these words. She said, look, every time you come here, my day's going pretty tough. But you tell me, God bless you, and every time you tell me that, every day you tell me that, when you leave, it gets a little better. And so there I was, hugging Black Lady's neck there at the Circle K in the parking lot. And that is what God's about, when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I was unaware. I was totally unaware. As a matter of fact, when she said that to me, I thought, man, I don't ever recall telling this woman this. But apparently I was thinking about my next test and memorizing all the stuff read. But I was still trying to do what God wanted me to do. It was pretty amazing that I was kind of unbeknownst by her well every day that I went by there. And it was pretty wild that you wouldn't think that little small gesture would make a big deal. But it did make a big deal in her life. I'll throw this in here real quick. It's very important, and even after I restudied this, it's kind of hard to say, but it's very true. The times you get to sit at some people's well is a short time. So it's very important that you make the most of the time that you have. I'll say it one more time. The times you get to sit at some people's well is a short time. So it's very important that you make the most of the time that you have. I just feel like maybe somebody is not spending the time wisely, and it's not going to be much longer for that person. I don't know who. I don't know. As we look deeper at well experiences, Jesus visited multiple wells if we look. And I'm not going to dig into every scripture, but in Zacchaeus, if you think about it, I mean, he stopped and sat for a while at Zacchaeus' well, and even went to his house. Can you imagine that? And we believe because of Zacchaeus' words of confession and repentance and restitution even, on Zacchaeus' the words that came out of his mouth, we have to believe that he was changed. The woman caught in adultery, Jesus visited her well, and that was a tough situation because some even believe that she was caught in the act. Can you imagine the scorn and shame? But we have to believe something happened there. And as he told her, go and sin no more, that's where we believe that it is possible to not commit willful sin. Because if Jesus told her something that was not possible, then Philippians 4:13 is a lie. And why did he come anyway? So, and I remember April 26, 1988. That was just before I turned 8. At a hallway at Calvary School, and my parents were sacrificed to send me. Jesus came by and sat by my well. As I told you earlier, when I wrote this sermon originally, it's been 20 years, and now it's been 30 that I've been saved. It's been real good. Just discuss many different ways that either God can send people by your well to help you, or maybe, it's vice versa. You may get a chance to sit by people's well, and there's going to be times when you're going to just pray and hope that God sends people your way, and He will. And if you, hopefully, there's not people out there that you know and have been around, and if they heard this sermon, they would say, well, God's never sat by my well. Hopefully, because you've been around them, they can't say that, because you've tried to encourage them, to help them. And a couple more scriptures I want to share. In Isaiah 55, 6 and 7 says, seek the Lord while he may be found. Call on him while he is near. Let the wicked forsake his way, and the evil man his thoughts, and let him turn to the Lord, and he will have mercy on him, and to our God, for he will freely pardon. In Isaiah 41:13 it says, for I am the Lord your God, who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, do not fear, I will help you. The coolest thing about the story to me, if you look back in verse 28, John 4:28, and it says, then leaving her water jar. That's the very thing that brought her satisfaction, refreshment. And obviously, if you're trying to carry water a long ways and need it, because water is life-giving, right? You can't live without it. She left that. Just left it. Why would she leave that? Well, usually when you jump up and leave something, and leave everything just sitting around and take off, it was because something was far more important than that. And to me, I believe that she realized that, man, I can come get this later. I got to go tell someone. And as we look at that, are we that excited about telling people that we visit their well? Are we that excited to tell them what Christ has done? Sadly, probably not. I hope that we can get there. And as we read this story and see the excitement in potentially a new convert's life, hopefully it can encourage us to know that it's very important that the people that we're hanging out with at their well, that we do and say the very thing Christ wants us to, or else they may not have nothing to run home and tell everybody about. In closing, if Brother Stephen or Bethel wouldn't mind, I believe it's 664 in the gray hymnal, Precious Lord, Take My Hand. If you wouldn't mind verse 2 of that. The altars are open, and this is kind of one of those where I might come down and just say, Lord, thank you for all the times when somebody's visited. Oh, well, just thank you. Or you might want to say, God, I could do better, you know, the people that I've been around, and I could do a better job. And I think we all could.
664.
Is that right?
No, you're right. You're right.
Well, while we're getting ready.